for all that you've done for me. Jesus, to fully praise you, it will take all eternity, just like Lazarus. Oh, you brought me back to life.
Behold the Lamb upon the cross, who takes away the sins of all. Forgiveness flows from hands and feet, as violence meets the Prince of Peace. Behold the King, Light of the world, Lamb that was slain, Lion arose, is mighty to save. The fullness of God won't be kept in the grave. Oh, darkness, your hour is over. Behold the love, starring peak. Behold the grace of Calvary, that rugged cross, soon to be the emblem of the risen King. Oh, behold the King, Light of the world, Lamb that was slain, Lion arose, is mighty to save. The fullness of God won't be kept in the grave. Oh, darkness, your hour is over. Light of the world, Lamb that was slain, Lion arose, is mighty to save. And the fullness of God won't be kept in a grave. Oh, darkness, your hour is over. No enemy can hold you down, 'cause there's nobody in the grave now. One head gets to wear that crown, 'cause there's nobody in the grave now. No enemy can hold you down, 'cause there's nobody in the grave now. One head gets to wear that crown, 'cause there's nobody in the grave now. No enemy can hold you down, 'cause there's nobody in the grave now. One head gets to wear that crown, 'cause there's nobody in the grave now. Light of the world, Lamb that was slain, Lion arose, mighty to save. And the fullness of God won't be kept in a grave. Oh, darkness, your hour is over. Light of the world, Lamb that was slain, the Lion arose, is mighty to save. And the fullness of God won't be kept in a grave. Oh, darkness, your hour is over. No enemy can hold you down, 'cause there's no.
Once again, let me extend a word of welcome to you. My name is Nancy Penny, and I get to serve as the executive director of this amazing group, the Fellowship of Barnabas Partners. There are several others who are stuck in traffic, and when they just slip in, make them feel welcome as you've already done for the people who are in the room. Let's think about who some of the people are who are in the room this morning. The first group of people that I want to acknowledge, and when I mention you, would you please just wave your hand, are the partners of Fellowship of Barnabas Partners, whether they're general partners, advising partners, or sponsoring partners. If you're a partner, would you raise your hand? Yay! Now, thanks. Put their hands down. For the rest of you, I hope you noticed who those people were, because those are the ones who made it possible for you to be here this morning. So when you see those folks later on, and they're identified by partner on their name tag, would you thank them? And second, ask them, why did you join this organization? And I think you're going to hear some pretty amazing stories. So would you raise your hand if this is your first FBP breakfast? Ooh, great. Okay. Would you raise your hand if you and your organization serve people who from time to time face some mental health challenges? Yeah, that's why this is an important topic. Do you primarily serve within the 610 loop? A few. What about if you serve on the board of some nonprofit organization? Many thanks. Do you serve an organization that's less than 3 years old? Those of you who didn't raise your hand, if you've been with an organization longer than that, you can sympathize with the challenges that those folks are facing when they get to that 3-4 year time frame and things start to get hard. Do you serve vulnerable women? Do you serve people who are young, toward the beginning of their life, maybe babies, infants? Yeah. Do you serve elderly people, maybe toward the end of their life? Some unique challenges there. What about, do you help people find jobs? A lot of organizations, one way or another, touch that space. What about providing financial services? We got some of that. I'm not sure if this person is here, but this is a real niche thing. I wanted to acknowledge it. Does your organization provide low-cost or free tools for nonprofits to use in times of disaster? All right, we've got one here anyway. Oh, there you go. Guys, just think of all the things that we do. Let's see, what's my list? Do you, or your organization, provide computers at no cost for nonprofits? All right. You might want to go talk to those folks later on. Do you provide medical care? Yeah, a lot of that happens. What about your organization needs more board members? What about, I've got tiny fonts here. Do you do sports outreach? Do you pointedly share the gospel in the course of your work? Do you work for a church? Okay, that gets some people. What about you serve mostly men in your outreach? There's some of those. Do you primarily serve people in other countries? Raise your hand, Melissa Mitchell, who just walked in the door. You primarily serve people in other countries. Do you primarily serve people from other countries who are in the United States? A different demographic. What about, do you provide coaching or consulting for nonprofit leaders? Thank you. We need that support. Do you work in the areas of media, graphics, messaging, photography? I hope y'all are taking notes here of who's raising their hands. Now, here's an important one. Do you work for an organization that knows its mission and is completely fulfilling it, that is totally funded, that has equipped and enthusiastic and engaged board members with others lined up to take their place when they are done? Would you all raise your hands? That's why we're here. Fellowship of Barnabas Partners equips Christians to help nonprofits no matter what their mission is. And so we have found that we are a collective of people who are nonprofit staff, nonprofit boards, professionals that serve nonprofits, Christians who are interested in knowing more about how they can use their own professional skills to enter the nonprofit space. Very often people have skills to offer that their church cannot directly use. And so it may be that I'm a plumber. I wish I were a plumber sometimes. But it may be that I have a job that I know I could go earn some money and then write a check and give it to a nonprofit organization. But does somebody need plumbing help? Because I really, really am good at that. And so whatever it is that your professional background and your skills, your life experiences have taught you, shaped you into being, there's some good work that needs that. And there is much good that is done within the context of local churches. There is much good that is done beyond the scope of local churches. And those folks still need structure and encouragement and boards and places to be and perhaps a workforce, and that's what we're here to help with. We find that most people with mental health challenges, and you'll be hearing more about this, never get the help they need. Many of them who do get some help first go to their house of faith, where they are able to perhaps get some counseling, perhaps get some referrals. Did you see how many of you share the gospel in the course of your work? And whether that's an explicit part of your ministry or not, you are faith-driven people. Others see that in you, and when they come to you, it's kind of like maybe coming to a church leader. Maybe they come to your organization for rent assistance and for after-school tutoring for their children and for food in times of need and for prayer. And you just become that spiritual resource in the community. So just like church leaders need to be aware of how to triage, how to provide first aid, how to provide first responder level care for those in mental crisis, it's true also for those of us who are nonprofit leaders and coming around nonprofit leaders. So that's the motivation for today's topic. Now, I mentioned that we equip Christians to help nonprofits. That takes many different forms. We have quarterly breakfasts like this, where our partners at all levels have made it possible for us to invite anybody who wants to come to these breakfasts, because we're going to be talking about topics that are relevant to this interface between nonprofits and the broader Christian community. We are continually developing website content so it's available instantly for anybody, where they don't have to wait for a breakfast, but that they're going to be able to find some resources there on our website. We also have periodic newsletters, which you are automatically subscribed to because if you registered to be here today. And if you have just found us late this morning and were not able to register before you joined us, you are welcome, but come see me afterwards so I can make sure you're added to that newsletter list. There's always some encouraging content as well as information about what the people in the room are doing to benefit the community and to benefit each one of you. And then also we have, what did I leave out? Oh, website content and social media, because thanks to some of the folks in this room, we are able to increase our presence and increase our reach across various social media platforms. So this morning, our speaker is Dr. Matt Stanford. Come on up, Dr. Stanford. You may have seen his work in the community as the founder and ongoing director of the Hope and Healing Center and Institute. He's got a presentation for us this morning that's going to last about a half an hour. At the end of that time, we're going to have Q&A. So be thinking of your specific questions. His remarks, of course, are general, but I know that you have specific needs about related to the population whom you serve, whether it's young people, old people, people who are resource limited, people who have physical conditions that compound the mental and emotional struggles that they have, and so on. So we'll have his presentation, we'll have Q&A, and then we have table discussion, where you come and talk about how what you have heard applies in your own setting. We're going to pray for each other and hear a few brief announcements before it's time to wrap up. Today we have a special bonus because between 10 and 11, you're invited to stay for a conversation about trauma-informed care, which is a specific therapy to help people who have tried to figure out how to survive trauma. Now think about the people whom you serve and the kinds of trauma that they have experienced. Trauma-informed care may be something you're familiar with, in which case you want to come and lend your experience to that conversation. It might be something that's new to you, and you're wondering if that's something that can help you. You're very welcome for that conversation. It's expertly facilitated by one of our partners, and then Annie Atwood, who is Annie here yet? Okay, and Hilda Marcel, one of our partners. Hilda, raise your hand. And so we're going to meet over here, and that's where that conversation is going to be between 10 and 11. So just kind of line out your morning for these things. So for now, take notes, listen to Dr. Stanford, and I'll rejoin him afterwards to help facilitate our Q&A. The down arrow is going to lead you through your presentation.
All right, well, thank you. Thank you for having me. I wish when I was a professor I had somebody to get up before me and say, take notes and listen to Dr. Stanford, because they don't always take notes and they don't listen to Dr. Stanford, if they even show up. So you know what they do now, actually, if you're not a professor, they will turn their computer on, and then they have a program called Otter or many other ones, and it just listens to Dr. Stanford and takes notes for them, and they read the newspaper or whatever. So I guess they've never seen a newspaper, so they do something else. So, all right, well, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. I'm going to talk a little bit about mental health in general, and then I'm going to talk about how the Hope and Healing Center, the organization that I run, might be able to help equip you to better minister to those that have mental health problems that you work with. The question, I will get to the question or the answer of what every nonprofit leader should know about mental health. We'll get to that about midway through the presentation. So to begin with, unfortunately, we have a horrible mental health crisis, and we've had one for a long time. It did not start with the pandemic. The pandemic just made more people realize that we have a problem because they started having problems. And so we've had a 40% increase, actually it's more than 40% at this point, since 2000. The decline in mental health for the population really began in the late 90s and really has gotten to kind of a frightening level. I like the use of the suicide rate as kind of a metric for that, and it's just, you can see, it's just a frightening increase. We've spent additional almost 200, probably at this point $200 billion more federally to try to deal with mental health, and literally all that's gotten us is a 40% increase in the suicide rate. And so it is getting much worse out there. More people have problems. So if you think that you're seeing more problems, more people have problems. There's just no doubt about it. Particularly our young people, they're struggling at even higher rates. We have a mental health care system that at the present time, and at least for the last probably more than 50 years, has been unable to even serve a majority of people in the country that have mental health problems. So today, a majority of people with mental health problems in the United States, regardless of the amount of resources they have, regardless of what color their skin is, regardless of what neighborhood they come out of, do not get care. I have had in my office in the same day a woman from Sunnyside who had no resources looking for care for her schizophrenic son that she could not get care for, and a man who literally is a billionaire looking for care for his 33-year-old schizophrenic daughter, of which he was unable to find care for. One has unlimited resources, one has no resources. They have exactly the same problem. They were unable to find care. And so that's a serious issue in and of itself. And then welcome to Texas. I grew up in Texas. I was born in Texas. I love Texas. We're the worst when it comes to mental health care, and we have been for my entire life, okay? And so Mental Health America puts out a rating every year of various aspects of mental health care in the United States. It's a snapshot of the country, and it's broken down by state. We have been the 50th when it comes to the delivery of mental health care for as long as they've been doing the rating. And many times, actually, we're 50th among the states. A lot of times they'll include Puerto Rico or Washington, D.C., and that'll make us 51st, okay? So you know, as a native Texan and someone who also lived in Louisiana for 10 years, the fact that we can't beat Louisiana, Alabama, and Mississippi really should frighten you, okay? Because I lived there, okay? And I loved Louisiana, but it's unbelievable how much poorer of a state that is, and yet we're not able to get anything. And I would say it's not because we don't have the resources. I mean, say financial resources as a state. It's because our legislatures have decided that this is not. So, you know, we built this 300-bed hospital here just a few years ago. You know, everyone was like, oh, well, this is going to be wonderful. Yeah, well, it's going to be wonderful, but, you know, day one it was filled up. If you dig a hole 10 feet into the ground and you put 6 inches of dirt in it, you're still 9 feet, 4 inches in the ground. Okay, and that's where we are. So you guys, I was kind of the one that suggested the Red Cross thing here. You guys really are the first aid, the front line, the urgent care of mental health. Whether you know it or not, I know most of you raised your hand when you said you deal with people with mental health problems. Whether you know it or not, whether you want to be or not, whether you accept it or not, you are, okay? And, but the reality is you can do a lot more than just we have some Band-Aids in there. You can do a lot more than just put a Band-Aid on this, and that's what I'm going to show you. People in psychological distress, people struggling with mental health problems, are more likely to go to a clergy before they go to a mental health care provider or physician, okay? It's just a fact. It's been demonstrated for decades, okay? And that is a really interesting statistic because it is not just people in the population that believe in God or people who belong to a church. It's anyone in the general population is more likely to go to a clergy before they go to a mental health care provider or a physician, okay? But most clergy don't recognize what's sitting in front of them. And I would say this, because most social services in the United States that aren't provided by the government are provided by faith-based organizations, I would say oftentimes you're those clergy that those people are going to. And again, many times faith-based nonprofits don't have the financial ability to bring in a staff of mental health care providers because it's expensive. So if we look at some of the populations that we deal with, they have incredibly high rates of mental health problems, far higher than the general population. So if you're dealing with prison inmates, 64% of prison inmates have a mental health problem. The homeless, I mean, we used to always get this number of 30%, which now is looked at as laughably low and always really was laughably low. Now they're talking 50%, but if you look at the data that's coming out of UCLA in California, that number really may be in the 70s, is what they're saying. And then we also have a very unique experience in cities that have adopted a housing first approach, which is that we have filtered out all of our mentally ill homeless and left them on the street and housed all those that can handle being in houses. And now we're dealing with almost 100% of the homeless with mental health problems, which makes it kind of difficult when you're dealing with people that are homeless. And now it's not like every third or fourth person, it's every person has a chronic, serious mental health condition. And so that's an issue. More than 70% of women or children who have been involved in human trafficking in some way are showing long-term traumatic experiences. People who are exposed to natural disasters like Katrina or earthquakes or whatever, about 35% of those individuals will have long-term post-traumatic stress issues. And then those with addictions, about 47%, almost half of them have an underlying mental health care problem. And if that mental health care problem is not treated, the likelihood that you're going to be able to take care of that addiction is about 0. That's why the average number of inpatient 28-day treatments in the U.S. before you get a year of sobriety is 7. Okay, so because most of our addiction programs are not set up to deal with comorbid issues, they're just set up to deal with addiction. And so you bring somebody in who has an undiagnosed bipolar disorder and they're using. Well, if you try to get them to stop using, they may stop using but they're gonna immediately go back because it's really the bipolar disorder that's driving it. So very high levels. I mean, much, much higher than the general population. In the general population, you're going to expect maybe somewhere between 3 to 4%. And here we're looking at just unbelievable. How the recidivism rate in these jail inmates that have mental illness is just unbelievable. And then if you move into the penitentiary, it does go down a little bit. It goes down into the high 50s. So in the high 50s of people in the penitentiary, both federal and state. Now, if you're just dealing with people that are under-resourced, you also have a problem because they have much higher rates for a variety of reasons, but they have a much higher rate. So this is a measure of serious psychological distress, which is a marker for mental illness. So you can see in those that are less than 100% of the poverty line, 8.7%. Again, you should be looking at, say, on an average of the population, 3 to 4%. I mean, they have more than twice the rate of serious psychological distress. So living in an impoverished environment where you have high levels of stress on a daily basis and violence and all these other, malnourishment, all these other kind of things, it leads to serious psychological distress, and serious psychological distress is related to mental health problems. So really, in some sense, if you're running a nonprofit organization, because most nonprofit organizations, with maybe the exception of those, does anybody in here just, gather money for rich people and help them do things or something? I mean, because most I know there are nonprofits that get money for the ballet or something like that. I mean, yeah, that's great, wonderful. People love the ballet, but the thing is that that's not who's sitting in the room here. So I could stand up here all day and show you how everyone you're dealing with has higher rates. The problem is you started your nonprofit, or you came to your nonprofit to provide some particular type of service or care for these individuals at some level. And while some of you may be specifically mental health care, most of you were not. And so you've had this thought in your mind, and that is, so many of these people have mental health care problems. Do we need to add mental health care to what we do? And then you go, well, that means more money, and so you've had that thought. And so this is the thing that every nonprofit needs to know about mental health care, and that is that to increase mental health support for those that you serve does not require a significant financial investment on your organization's part, and it can be done with the staff you have right now. You don't have to hire one more person. Okay, well, thank you guys. I'm glad that you had me today, and then that's just a fact, and I'm going to show you exactly how you can do that. Okay, and I mean transformative. In the context of what you'll be able to do, okay? The other thing I would say before we get into that is this, and that is, if your organization was started to feed people that don't have food, it's okay to just feed people. You don't have to try to do a bunch of mental health care services for them. It's perfectly fine just to feed people. People have unlimited needs when they're within these situations, and you can just provide for one need. But you can have people within your organization that are able to be aware and perceptive of what's going on with them from a mental health perspective, and then connect them to the person at the next table that actually offers that service, okay? You don't have to necessarily start offering that service. Oops, went the wrong way. All right, so here are really the three barriers, or the three areas that keep people from getting mental health care, okay? And that's affordability, which is almost always the number one reason that people don't get care. If it's not affordability, it's going to be the acceptability. We'll talk about that in a moment. So many individuals, and most of the individuals that you deal with and that I deal with, 62% of the people that come to the Hope and Healing Center have no resources to pay for mental health care, don't have resources for care, or they don't have insurance that covers that. So you may be working with individuals that are not the homeless necessarily, maybe working with in what we think of or used to call the working poor. They have maybe even have an insurance policy, but you would be shocked how many insurance policies don't cover mental health care at any level. In fact, I would suggest to you that you go home and check if you've never tried to use yours for mental health care, and some of you will be shocked that it may cover addiction treatment, but it doesn't cover mental health care. We run into people with that all the time. So affordability is a huge problem. And what needs to be done to overcome that is what some would say is impossible, and that is the development of affordable and no-cost evidence-based options for care. Where you just give somebody the care, and we'll talk about that. Acceptability is really the second most common reason, and sometimes the first, depending on the survey. And that's where we get into the idea of stigma, okay? Fear of judgment, embarrassment. I don't want to out myself. I don't want people to think I'm crazy, okay? And so they just won't go get care. And in some instances, their family might even keep them from getting care because they don't want people to think that there's something wrong with the family. But that is a huge problem. We constantly hear of people that commit heinous crimes, particularly mass shootings, and the first thing you hear is, well, this person had a mental health care problem. Okay, so we're taught to be afraid of these people. The reality is if you look at the data, of which there is wonderful data, sadly, on mass shootings, a very small percentage, small percentage, actually had a defined mental health problem. A third of all mass shootings are the result of domestic violence. We never hear about that. A third of all mass shootings are the result of some kind of racial, ethnic, or religious hate. We almost never hear about that. And not a third is not mental health problems. It's within that other third that are mental health problems. So are there people that commit heinous acts that do have mental health problems? Sure, but there's lots of people who commit heinous acts that don't have mental health problems. In fact, people with mental health problems have been shown to be more likely the victims of violence than the perpetrators. But acceptability is a real issue. And then finally, accessibility. The fact is we just don't have enough mental health care providers, okay? And, in Houston, in Harris County, I should say, there's one adult psychiatrist for every 8,500 people, okay? And I don't know if you can just quick do the math, but one person cannot see 8,500 people in a year. It won't work that way, okay? And so also the margins on reimbursements are so low that every day we lose more practices, or people go to cash pay only, where you have to pay the client pays for everything, and they don't take insurance. Less than 50% of psychiatrists in the United States still take insurance. And the direction is the same for therapists. So within a decade, if we continue the way we're going, mental health care will be 100% client paid cash to the provider. Insurance will not be involved at all. Which means what? It means that anyone you serve or I serve will have no mental health care because it's only going to be something that's available to people with resources, okay? That's the direction we're in. So these are our three main categories of problems. We have to break stigma through education and training in some way. We have to normalize a conversation around mental health care. We have to understand that people that have mental health care problems are no different than someone who has diabetes or a heart condition. We want to help them. If somebody sees somebody laying on the corner down on San Jacinto downtown and they've got a big gash on their arm, and as long as they're dressed appropriately, people will run up and say, hey, what happened? Can I help you? But when the guy's on the corner waving his arms and talking to the street pole, they're like, well, we better call 911. We got to get this guy out of here. This guy, he's dangerous. I don't know, maybe the guy that slashed his arm was trying to cut somebody and he cut himself by accident. I don't know. So it's just a different approach. Compassion for one aspect of physical health problems and not for the other. So, and then on accessibility, we have to come up with a functioning mental health care system. And this is the negative, the real negative. And I know you're like, this is the negative. This guy's like the prophet of doom here. So the real negative is the fact that we don't have a functioning mental health care system, and we never have. Any system that's been put in place that engages less than 50% of the people it was put in place for, if that was in business, that would be shut down on day one. Okay? Day one. Okay? Go tell your board that you're gonna spend all the money that they raise for you, but you're only going to be able to engage 50% of the people that you said you would be able to engage with that money, and see how long that goes. So it's not functioning. And the reason it doesn't function is it's not a continuum of care like we have in physical medicine. If you wake up tomorrow and you have a bad headache, okay, the first thing you would do is you would go look in your medicine cabinet and see if you had Motrin or Tylenol, okay? If you didn't, you'd go down to the pharmacy and you'd buy some, okay? Now you've entered the continuum of care. You first have tried to treat with available remedies over the counter. And then if that doesn't work, you might go to an urgent care. And if that didn't work, you might go to your primary care physician, and he or she do some testing, and then they might send you to a specialist. And ultimately, you kind of work your way up through this continuum from very low levels of intensity of care all the way up to hospitalization, and then you get sent to the infamous rehab hospital, and you work your way back down to being at home. In mental health care, the equivalent would be this. You wake up with a headache tomorrow in mental health care, you call a neurosurgeon. Because there is nothing between you having a mental health care problem and the highest level provider. There's no service in there whatsoever, okay? But there is an opportunity, and that opportunity is churches, because that's where people go first, or to you, because I consider you, you're part of that ministerial organization. You see what I'm saying? That's where people go first, but then they're not getting the care that they need because those places haven't been set up to do that. And then you go up to the highest level provider. If he can't or she can't handle it, you get hospitalized, and then you go back to your house with your family. And then that's why the readmission rate for individuals with schizophrenia, bipolar, and serious depression in acute psychiatric care, inpatient care, 80% within 2 weeks. Does that sound like it works? So it's a disaster out there. So what I want to say is this. If you're hoping that you can connect with the traditional mental health care system to help the individuals that you serve, it's a fool's errand. It absolutely is not going to work. They will have to wait for months to weeks to get in. And if they can get in, you're going to have to pay a fortune for them to get the service. And then that service is ongoing because these are chronic conditions, and you'll never be able to pay it. And you'll never be able to get the guy that doesn't have transportation or his cognitive function isn't very, you'll just never get him to go. It's horrible. It's absolutely horrible. So we have to do it a different way, and we have to take care of it ourselves. And if God is sending these people to churches first and to faith-based nonprofits, that's a divine opportunity. And if we don't take advantage of that, then that's on us, okay? That's on us, okay? You also have to keep this in mind in this when I'm about to show you if you get no care for your mental health problem, that is far, far worse than if you get some care. Okay? But getting the highest level, platinum level care is always better. But the fact is, less than 50% of people of any strata of our society ever get care. And in the federal government has estimated that of that minority of people that get care, only 25% of them get the recommended level of care. So that means 75% of people in the United States with mental health care problems never receive any care, or they receive less than the care they should get. So it can just go on and on and on. So now, how do we fix this? How do we fix this for you? Whoops. I'm going to show you 3 things that we've put in place that you can access immediately, okay? And that you can begin to give care to the people that you serve right where you are. You don't have to build a new building. You don't have to hire more staff. You don't have to do anything. One of those, for affordability, is the Hope Line, okay? In your little bag, you're going to see a little card like this, the Hope Line, okay? On one side, it says the Hope Line. It has a phone number. We have an evening support line, okay? And by the rustling of the bags, I can tell I've really freaked you out. And so we have an evening support line which means that you can call between 5 and 8 p.m. every night, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. It's answered in English and Spanish. I have these cards in Spanish as well. I can get you as many of these cards as you want, okay? And I'll tell you how to get contact with me at the end. You will get half-hour counseling on the phone. You will get referrals to mental health care providers that you actually can access. We have a database in the Houston area of over 1,000 providers, every level of resource from zero to I got more money than Jesus, okay? And so we can get you to who you need. You can call this number as many times as you need to, okay? This is a support line. It's not a crisis line. You want to talk about a problem, you just call this. These are my staff on this. These are mental health coaches that we've trained. They will give you half-hour counseling. They will give you referrals to mental health care providers. So, for instance, 90% of the people that call the Hope Line say that it was helpful for them. 60% of the people that call the Hope Line were diverted from emergency services, meaning they were going to call 911 or go to an ER, or they had no other option for care, meaning they don't have a mental health care provider, they don't have family, things like that. 78% did not have the financial resources to call or to access mental health care. And I will also tell you a number I don't have on there. More than 50% of those people are ethnic minorities, which is unheard of in mental health care. That you would have a majority of the people accessing a mental health service to be ethnic minorities is literally unheard of, okay? It's very difficult to get racial minorities to access mental health care for a variety of reasons. And the thing is that this has really been working well. So imagine that you could put this in the hand of the people that you have. They could contact any night of the week in English and Spanish. They can get half-hour counseling. Now, let's say they're going to a provider. How often do they see the provider? At most, once a week. Well, this fills the gap, okay? They want to call because they're lonely. They can call. They want to call because they're having a panic attack. They want to call because they call for any reason, okay? And they can talk. And they can call back if they want, okay? They also get the referrals. You've been trying to get them connected, and they're not listening to you. Well, maybe they'll listen to the Hope Line operator after they call 3 or 4 times. Okay? You don't have the staff to keep a dedicated mental health referral list updated. It's easy to put one together one time. It's hard to keep it updated. You don't have to do it. I have staff that does that. Every month they go through the list. Over 1,000 providers and places on our list. And that's just for Houston. We have Dallas and San Antonio also. And it's constantly updated. You just tell us what zip code you live in. I'll find the closest person that you can access, okay? So instead of you doing that, you just say, I want you to call this number tonight and see if they can give you a referral to a mental health care provider, okay? On the back side is a little QR code to a smart site that we have called the Misher Behavioral Health Resource Center. It's a website that has a little chat bot on it named Grace, and Grace will engage the person in a conversation and help them find behavioral health resources, addiction, things like that. So if she's not able to help them, she'll connect them to the Hope Line, okay? But this is all specific for addiction. It's not just Houston, it goes beyond Houston, but it also obviously does Houston as well, okay? But this is an entry point to mental health care right there, just a card. If you did nothing more than just hand these cards out, then you're giving a person a connection because you don't have to try to figure out what's going on with this person and where they need to go. Let my Hope Line operators do that for you, okay? You could start this today. I'll get you as many cards as you want, English, Spanish, always a Spanish-speaking operator available at every shift on the Hope Line. All right, second, the Empower training, okay? One of the problems, that I used to be on a board of an organization called Mission Waco when I was a professor at Baylor. You might know Mission Waco. And one of the things that I realized very quickly was that, everybody that's coming into Mission Waco has a mental health care problem because it's mostly dealing with the homeless. But we had one social worker in the whole organization. And that poor guy, talk about overrun. And so what if everybody in the organization could be equipped at some level to at least recognize what's in front of them, okay? So that's where the Empower training came from. The Empower training is a virtual, it's online, on-demand, 2-hour training that teaches you, your staff, the 4 R's: how to recognize a mental health care problem, how to make a proper referral so they understand about the mental health care system and how to make a proper referral, how to relate to someone in distress, how to do a suicide assessment, how to deal with a panic attack, how to de-escalate a situation. Any of you ever had to de-escalate a situation with one of the people you worked with? Yeah, I mean, that is like the bread and butter of nonprofit organizations. I mean, if someone isn't yelling in the nonprofit organization, you're not doing your job, okay? I mean, that's how it was at Mission Waco. You know, everybody, they have a fuse about that long, but what if your staff all knew how to properly de-escalate that without having to call 911? And then finally, how to set up restorative programs and process within your organization to serve those with these problems. 2 hours, okay? Here's the data we're getting off of that. This is actually data from 400 individuals at churches and nonprofits that we just recently did. But the one that I like the most, me personally, that it makes me the most excited, is the one right in the middle. 91% said that they feel better prepared to ask someone if they're having suicidal thoughts. I've never seen a number that high in relation to that. Nobody wants to talk to people about suicide. But we're able to do it in such a way that people feel more comfortable doing that, okay? So it's preventative, but it's also kind of treatment-oriented. So recognize an individual with psychological distress, relate and actively listen to someone. And so these are the kind of tools that you will gain, and you can see we get really good results. You want to know how much that costs? It's free. It's ready to go right now. You can go do it right now. Everybody in your organization can do it. I'm going to give you the website in just a second. 100% free. Okay? So why would you not do it? We have done that in 1,000 congregations here in the Houston area. Almost 10,000 clergy and ministry staff have gone through that since 2017. Okay? Hope Line, free. Empower, free. Okay? Not free. Okay, so it's the only thing we charge for. Okay, we also have a clinic. I'll just tell you how much I'll give away, okay? I'm like, Bob Barker up here. The thing is, we have a clinic. We have a free clinic, which I'm not even going to talk about today, for people with serious mental illness. You go on a year-long treatment program. It's 100% free. I even pay for your medicine. Okay? So, this is literally the only thing that we charge for. Mental health coaching. So everybody in your organization goes through Empower. Everybody. You and everybody that works there, all the volunteers, everybody goes through it. So now everybody's on the same page. They all know the 4 R's. You choose a subset of people, or some organizations have done everyone in the organization to become a mental health coach. The training now is 20 hours, used to be 42 hours, but it's online as well. It's on demand, okay? It's 20 hours. Those little dots right there, that's Houston, and that's College Station up in the corner up there. Up there is College Station. Every dot that's on there is an organization or a church that has a mental health coach. And some of them have more than one mental health coach. That's why there's some different colors there, okay? I want you to be one of the dots, okay? I want the city covered with mental health coaches. So what can a mental health coach do? As I said there, they can help a person regain stability. They can manage symptoms, rebuild relationships, access professional care. They have access to our database through an app that we've developed that they will have. They can literally be standing in your organization. They can put in what the person's struggling with, what the zip code is you're in, whether they have any resources. It will automatically select the closest and best providers for them right in your area. And I keep that all up to date. And they're right there in your organization. So mental health coaches go through a core training where they learn about mental illness. They learn how to work with a person with mental illness one-on-one. So they learn some cognitive behavior therapy curricula that we have developed. They learn how to provide, to facilitate support groups. We have 3 support group curricula, one for people with mental illness, one for the caregivers of people with mental illness, and trauma, okay? They then select, after the core training, they've selected a specialization. So then they are given specialized training in either addiction and behavioral health, aging and elder care, child and adolescent, or trauma. So you're going to go to a little discussion later about trauma-informed care. How would you like to have 2 or 3 people at your organization that were trained to work one-on-one with people who have mental health problems as a result of trauma? Well, that's what this will provide you. They then have access to monthly free continuing education, ongoing. So that person will receive continuing ed every month live online, okay? They have access to really an unlimited amount of resources that we make available, intake assessments, consent forms, all kinds of stuff that they have access to, and as well as chats with other mental health coaches. We're building a kind of a continuum, a connection of people. And so that's the mental health coach training. It's 20 hours now. And like I said, 20 hours of basic training, and then you begin to get continuing ed after that. So imagine if you had everyone trained on Empower, you had, depending on the size of your organization, 3 to 5 to 15, I mean, it just depends on the size of the organization, people that are trained as mental health coaches. Somebody is recognized by a staff member as having a serious mental health problem or having a mental health problem. They then are connected within your organization to the mental health coach who can not only make the referrals and the connection and the follow-up to mental health care, they can provide therapeutic support. Our CBT curriculum has been demonstrated to reduce symptoms. Our support group material has been related to reduce symptoms and increase spiritual growth. The good part of all this, everything I've just talked about, it's all faith-based. Okay? So they're not only getting quality, evidence-based mental health kind of support, they're also getting the gospel. Okay? That, $75. That's how much it is. Do you think it's a lot? Oh, so $75. Okay, one time you pay the $75, you have access to all that other stuff. They're ongoing and all. You have all that forever. It's not. There's no. So, Gateway to Hope University. That's the website you want to go to. HHCI.org. That's our main website. But Gateway to Hope University is the website you want to go to. Oh, I'm over by 4 minutes. And everything's there. All that training is virtual, on demand. You do have to register for the Empower, but it's free. The Empower is free. I have staff, you can contact them through Gateway to Hope University, that will help you get this set up. You don't have to just go on there and do the training. You can contact us and we'll help you get it set up. If you want to do it as a group or whatever, things like that, they can then help you set it up within your organization as well. And we want to partner with you to help you do a better job ministering to the people that God's sending you to. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop right there and I'm going to start taking questions because I see Nancy sneaking up behind me over here. She's going to throw something in.
You found that helpful.
So, this is what that card looks like if you're looking for it.
Yeah.
So, all right, so.
Let's begin with a question from one of our partners. Gary.
In the homeless realm, there is so much noise about housing first, and it seems to me that if you don't triage these folks coming in for their physical, mental, and substance abuse deals and get them into that spot right now, housing, and their housing would be there, but it's not going to be what we're talking about. It's going to be a mental institution, it's going to be a substance abuse recovery place, it's going to be a hospital. But I don't understand this. Can you give me some help, other than the fact that the federal government funds one and doesn't fund the other?
Why we do it that way?
Yeah.
Well, I think it's the funding issue, but I think the reason it's funded that way is that and again, I'm going to probably say something, I'm very opinionated, if you haven't noticed, but I'm going to probably say something that you're going to disagree with and not like, and that's okay. We're all in the body. And so when you say housing first, what that says to me is that you think everybody that's out on the street, the only reason they're out on the street is because they don't have a house. Because they're just too stupid to know that they should be in a house. I mean, that's really what that says to me. I'm not saying that they shouldn't be housed. Of course they should be housed. But like I used to tell my classes at Baylor, when you make a list of problems that homeless people have, housing sometimes doesn't even make the top 10. And so if the data out of UCLA in California, 1 out of every 4 homeless people in the United States lives in California. Okay? So they got the best sample. All right? Seriously. 72% have serious mental health problems. Okay? If you don't take care of the mental health problem, you don't have a chance getting them having them stay into a house. This is something so you're absolutely right. They need to be triaged first for mental health problems. But to show you how ludicrous this is, when I very first got here to Houston 11 years ago, we wanted to use the top floor of Lord of the Streets. Is there anybody from Lord of the Streets here? Top floor of Lord of the Streets. We were seeking funding. We were going to use the top floor as a stabilization unit for men with serious mental illness so they could be stabilized, just what you just said, before they move into the housing first approach. We were told by the city of Houston if we did that, they would no longer be eligible for housing because they would no longer be considered homeless. Because we kept them in a facility too long, and now they're not homeless anymore. And then we would have to wait a certain number of months before they were considered homeless again while they lived out on the street. So it's not, the people that are putting this together aren't you and me. The people that are putting this together are legislatures that know virtually nothing about what it is to be homeless or serve the homeless. So they don't to say that the homeless are mentally ill, well, that just means that you should be more fearful of them, call the police. So that's the problem. But you're absolutely right. How about have a mental health coach triage people as they come in, because they're trained to do an assessment, so you then can have your own measure of who is more and less mentally healthy, and then you can have a better sense of, well, I know that people that are at this level are not successful in this program that we have, so we better put them in this program. So you can do a better job of making sure that your resources are used effectively. So you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
Another question from a partner. Gabrielle.
How many operators do you have taking these calls, and do you have enough?
Oh yeah, we have more than enough. It just depends on the. We always have 2 operators and a supervisor for every shift, but it just depends on what the demand is, depending on how many so I have extra operators to add in when the demand gets greater.
That's good, because the demand is going to get greater.
And to make you think that it's not like everybody's sitting in a room somewhere, like, hello, this is Hope
Call
Healing
center.
That doesn't happen anymore. It's a piece of software, so you're calling this number, which is at the Hope and Healing Center, and then the operators are all at their houses with a computer, and they just log on when it's their shift, and they just do it at their house. So they're just all out in the community. So that's how, no call centers anymore.
Yeah. Another partner question. Aaron.
Have you noticed within the churches in the Houston area a stigma to helping the homeless? A lot of the organizations here work on boots on the ground, and when we try to connect them with the local churches, they don't really want to get involved.
Boy, you just lit the fuse on that one, didn't you? So I will say that I have very much a love-hate relationship with the modern Western church, and so when I asked the question, I would have asked it to somebody that they have a stigma towards mental illness, but absolutely homelessness, and anyone who isn't got it all together or faking it. So yes, absolutely. And so what I see, unfortunately. And I know this is less than 25% of churches in the United States have any kind of ministry that would be considered mental health oriented in any way. What I see more churches going through, there's an organization here that offers training for your ushers and deacons and gets them their, it used to be concealed carry when they needed that. So they all can be armed. And so, yes, there's a terrible stigma. There's a terrible fear. As I was saying over to the gentleman over here, we were talking about serving widows. While the Bible beats us over the head, but we should be taking care of widows and orphans. We tend to not take care of widows and orphans very well when it's just so overtly obvious. It's just like with the foreigners kind of thing right now. You see people trying to justify this idea that somehow the Bible doesn't tell us that we're supposed to be kind to the foreigner or the sojourner, that somehow because they entered our country in a way they shouldn't have entered our country, that we should just treat them horribly. I think it's just, we've lost our way, and I think, just to quote a famous person, we've lost our first love, and the thing is that we have to do a better job. And for me, mental health is the thing. I see mental health as the mission field of the 21st century, and so I think we want to get that conversation going, and I think our churches are, and our faith-based nonprofits are absolutely the front line of mental health care, whether they want to be or not. God has set it up that way, and man, do we need to get going and come along, and we have a lot of opportunities to help people.
Let's have a question from a first-time attendee. Gigi.
I have noticed with the people that my organization serves, there is an astonishing amount of people in poverty who have special needs children,
Mhm.
and especially autism. I cannot
Right.
believe the amount of people who have kids who come in and say they have children with autism. I mean, is that something, I mean, obviously, well, maybe not obviously, to me it seems like it's environmental, but that it's not really something in the brain that makes them fully autistic. I mean, I don't know, but it just seems like with this many people coming in our doors,
Right.
and they all have children with special needs, specifically autism, is that something that is happening in their environment, or?
Okay.
What causes autism?
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, what causes autism is going to tell you that. So yeah.
I
so,
wasn't going
yeah.
there, but you did, so there.
Well, it's a great question. I mean, it is a good question, and you know what? There's a lot of data. There's a lot of data that somebody doesn't really look at the
Yeah,
data.
yeah,
But but the thing is that there's a lot of data, and we don't really know exactly. But the thing is that at this point, it's less than 1 out of every 30 births of a male that has autism at this point. I mean, it's really high, and it's not much far behind for girls. Part of the reason that so many more people have autism is because we dramatically changed the way autism is diagnosed. We went from a very much a buckets-oriented approach where it was very categorical, like you meet a certain set of criteria and you're in the autism bucket. And then we had a few other we had things like Asperger's that was less serious. And so, but you had to meet a certain set of criteria. Now we've gone to a spectrum where really on the high end of the spectrum, some of you, and I don't mean that to be funny, some of you and myself would probably be, if we're eccentric or we kind of had odd habits, we might be on the very high end of the spectrum, whereas those on the low end of the spectrum would be what we used to think of as a classic kind of nonverbal person with autism. So that's part of the reason, okay? But it's only a small part. The other thing is something is going on neurobiologically and environmentally, okay? Now, I will tell you that, and I don't want to get into it, okay? 'Cause we're not going to do that, okay?
Later.
If you mix religion and politics, you get politics, and I don't want to do that, okay? And so the thing is that I'll tell you right now, no matter what they tell you, I literally have a PhD in neuroscience. That's what I was before I came to the Hope and Healing Center. I worked as a neuroscientist my entire life, okay? So I kind of know what I'm talking about. There have been huge, hundreds of thousands of children studies with vaccines, okay? And vaccines have absolutely no connection to autism. Are there some children that are damaged by vaccines? Absolutely. People react in different ways, okay? There's no doubt about it. Is the vaccine schedule that we have very harsh on the body? Yes, it needs to be looked at. It's something that was put together way too long ago. We give way too many vaccines too fast and too early because it causes an immune response. But that being said, probably the best data right now for the connection to autism is that there is an incredibly high relationship between metabolic problems in the mother and autism in the child. So obesity, diabetes, autoimmune issues, these kind of metabolic problems, which are the things that we're all talking about all the time. We have a horribly obese society. There's a tremendous, because it causes a lot of stress response and inflammation, and then it causes the same thing in the child during the development. I'm not saying that's what causes it, but I'm just saying that the research right now really is showing that relationship. And you know what? There's no doubt it's a multifactorial thing. There are some small set of kids that probably are the result of some kind of environmental exposure. You know, there are some small that are probably the result of some kind of genetic abnormality. It's not all just one kind of simple little thing. And that's the problem. When anybody is telling you, when anyone tells you it's this thing, they don't know what they're talking about. because it's not one thing. It's multiple things. And do we need to figure it out? Absolutely. Are we doing a good job figuring it out? Not at all. Yeah. And you know what really doesn't help? Cutting funding to research.
Okay, all right. Now, moving on to the next question before I get in trouble. Okay, let me ask a follow-up question, though, related to that, because...
And I will tell you, I did not, you know what, you don't have any idea who I voted for, because it's not who you think I did. So I'll just tell
now
you,
you know.
Politics have nothing to do with this. This is just science.
So true, so true. So a parent of a child with autism...
I'm sorry, let me just say this. Will this help? Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. These people will then be more perceptive and sensitive for the mental. They can also help those families find care. We have those types of providers in the database. And so absolutely, they'll be great advocates for those parents.
Okay, that was really my follow-up question, because whether you're talking about a child who has perhaps a mental health challenge, or at the other end of the spectrum, an elderly relative or church
With
member.
Dementia. Right.
So you're saying that someone can call the helpline on behalf of someone
else? They do all the time. Parents call all the time.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
We actually at the Hope and Healing Center I haven't mentioned it today, we have a whole other program just for elder care and aging, for dementia, things like that. And that's another one of a specialization. So for instance, if you would like somebody at your organization, they would go through the core training, they would pick the child and adolescent. Then now they have special training in child and adolescent, getting children and adolescents to care, supporting parents, working with things like autism. So they're more prepared for that.
Yep. So this could go on for quite a
forever.
while.
Yeah.
Let me say, as I was listening to what Dr. Stanford had to say, I was reminded that September is Suicide Prevention Awareness Month. And this Sunday marks 4 years since I lost my dear sister-in-law. And I really, really, really wish that I had gone through this kind of training ahead of time, and that other people in her life had as well. I know this is going to strike home for you personally, not just the suicide issue, but all of the things we've been talking about this morning. It will impact you personally as well as impact the organizations that you work with. And so for the next few minutes, we're going to invite that conversation at each one of your tables. So take about 5 to 7 minutes to talk about the immediate impacts and application that you see. And then we'll spend about 10 minutes praying for each other as we implement the things that Dr. Stanford has said and as the Spirit has mentioned to us as we have been listening. Join me, please, in once again thanking Dr. Stanford. Yeah, we got a zillion of these. Don't worry, you're not stuck with just the one in your bag. All righty, table discussion time. make sure and spend a few minutes praying for each other and inviting God into the conversations you've been having very directly. So for the next few minutes, let's transition into prayer time.
Thou my best thought by day or by night, waking or sleeping, thy presence my life.
What great, engaging conversation. As I look across the room, I see people who are continuing to pray. Let's take a couple of minutes and wrap up that time of prayer before we conclude the rest of our meeting. Okay. So as we bring this time of prayer to a close, I know that you will continue to invite God into the conversations of the morning. I'm glad to be in a room where so many heartfelt communications with God are going on. So we've got a few things to announce and tell you about and prepare for as we're heading toward our punctual 9:30 close. First, we want to welcome our new partner, Michael Obringer. Michael, yay. Okay. Michael leads Prestige Learning Institute, which takes care of refugees who have come to the United States. He can tell you all about it. They have a unique opportunity right now because they are the only nonprofit in the greater Houston area that's up for a grant from Chick-fil-A. And they're going to decide who gets the grant based on, there's some other organizations, but they're going to decide the amount of the grant and how much they get based on your votes on the Chick-fil-A app. So, in your bag, which you can look at later, there's instructions for how you can not only vote for Michael, but you can pass this on to all of the other folks that you know because it's free. You can download the app and delete the app, I don't care. But while you're there, vote for Michael. All right. And that is one of the ways that we take care of each other. Now, that's an example of what's in your bag. You don't have to go through your bag right now. But let me just tell you that in your bag, there's all kinds of great stuff from our partners. When you are a partner, you get to highlight the opportunities that are going on in your organization for all of the other people who are in the room to read. Now, we've got things from Amy Fuller. Raise your hand when I kind of get to you as a partner, talking about not only the services their organization offers, but an upcoming event that you'll want to participate in. We have Solace Media, one of our sponsors. Raise your hand when I get to you. We have Jessica and Drew Willie, an accountant and an attorney who are not with us this morning, but they are some of our sponsors. Gabrielle Baumeier fits in the category of somebody who provides expert leading and training for our partners. And I'll get to some more of these things in a minute. Oop, there's Amy's. Houston Hope Fest. Dennis, raise your hand. So a lot of your organizations are participating in this evangelistic, youth-oriented event, which is coming up. And you read more about it at the postcard, but this is something that either you bring in your folks to it, or you can come and volunteer for it, or you can perhaps as an organization be present there. Find out more here. Here's a little Chick-fil-A flyer. Now, Tim Tebow is married to her. And Demi is going to be here speaking at the Shine the Light Gala, which is a benefit for My Life Speaks. Advising partner Kathleen Pennington can answer more questions about this. Okay, if you would like for your kinds of things to be highlighted, this is one way to do it, but you need to be a partner. Now, let me also tell you, you might look at this and go, hey, I don't know, I'm busy that night. Chunk. Nope. All of these things that are in your bag are valuable resources. We worked hard to stuff those bags, and if you are not able to use this, think about who else needs to know. Who is the person that would really benefit from going to this? Maybe you can't. Or maybe you've signed up. That's not your trigger to throw this away. That's your trigger to say, okay, I don't need this anymore, but who else does? So for everything that's in your bag, consider that an invitation to build our fellowship by inviting other people to come alongside you to participate in these things. All right, what have I included in here? We have a little first aid kit. So long after your bag is worn out, you will still have a reminder of being a first responder. Even though it's Band-Aids in here, you're talking about perhaps mental Band-Aids that you're going to be offering. So wherever you stick this, whenever you find it again, go, oh yeah, that breakfast, I remember. Let's see, we also have my contact information. And you might say, oh, I've already gotten a card before, or, I know Nancy's email address. True. Who else needs to know my email address? And so make sure you pass these things along. So those are things that are in your bag. It's a valuable, valuable collection of information. Leave it here. Okay, so why should you be a partner? One reason is so that you can highlight your things in our gift bag. Also, most of you have seen our newsletter, which goes out at least once a month, where our partners are also able to make announcements, and that newsletter is actually opened by nearly 700 people in Houston who work in this collaboration between nonprofits and the broader Christian community. So if you want them to know about your things, whether it's an event or a request that you have, something to celebrate, maybe an enrichment opportunity, whatever it is, you as a partner can let everybody else know about that. Now, here are some of our partner benefits. You know about this. Partners kind of have insider parties once a month when we have our first Friday lunches. And as you are noticing people who are partners on the badge, you might say, hey, tell me about those lunches. And the ones who are able to attend those will tell you how beneficial they are. So, Partner Pairs, led by Gabrielle Baumeier, is currently in the middle of a fall cohort meeting where our partners can get to know each other better, clarify their message, understand how to present themselves to other people, get to know what God is doing in each other's lives more intensely. That's just another free bonus for being a partner. We got something new here, all right? If you are a partner, in the next week, you are going to be emailed a partner badge. And so this was suggested by one of our partners and then developed by one of our sponsoring partners. And so you're going to have this little image that you can add to your SIG file. You can put it on your website. You can print it on mugs, whatever you want to do. But each year you will get the appropriate badge for your level of partnership, and then that will help build credibility for your organization and drive interest for people to find out more about Fellowship of Barnabas Partners. So, here you go. You too can join as a partner. It can be $50 a month. I mean, it's really like the benefits are out the wazoo for what you get. So, QR code here. Here's how to be a partner. If you don't have your phone out yet, we have two lovely ladies who are partners who will be at this back table as we're leaving. And so they will be able to walk you through the process of how to join, which is super, super easy. And then you can get the little badge, and you can come to the monthly lunches, and you can put your stuff in the bags, and you can be in the newsletter, and you can do all the things. So next thing, I want to tell you about our new sponsor in the list of our whole sponsors, Sky Collective. Raise your hand, Sky and Nancy. And if you've noticed that our social media looks a little better lately, it's them, not me. Okay. Solace Media, Sunny and Natasha, raise your hands. Okay. So these are the folks to go to when you're like, I just don't know how to, I can't message. And they're going to help you clarify what it is that you do. and learn how to say that in a way that's going to communicate effectively, and then digitally express that to the world, okay? If you know Sunny and Natasha, you know that's not all they do. They wear so many hats, and they can tell you about it later. City Rise Church is one of our sponsors for whom we are very grateful. If you're connected with City Rise, would you raise your hand? Okay. Fantastic, fantastic church. If you're looking for a church, it's a multi-campus church that is all about generosity and generously sharing the gospel and our other resources. I invite you to check out City Rise. They've got a giant leadership conference happening tomorrow, and if you've got bandwidth to do that tomorrow, who wants to tell you about it? Rainey wants to tell you about it. Or anybody else will tell you about it. Okay, there you go. Willie Professional Services, those are the folks that I referred you to before, the husband-wife pair who are an accountant and an attorney specializing in nonprofit services, and the Leadership Exchange. I'm leaving them for the last because there's more to say about them. The Leadership Exchange. Who is here? Bill, John, yay! Okay, at the end, there, did somebody else raise their hand? Oh, yes. Okay, so at the end, head over to this easel because they want to tell you about their upcoming day-long intensive that's designed for leaders, and we're going to be a bunch of nonprofit leaders who are going to crash that party. Actually, we're invited. And so many of you have benefited from the coaching that they have offered, and I invite you to check out that resource. Okay, they've got flyers. They can tell you about it. It's free. It's October 30th, so you got time to get it on your calendar. And so John is going to be back here by this easel along with some of his colleagues. So make sure you check them out. We are grateful for their sponsorship. And you, too, can become a sponsor. And that way your logo gets to be on all of our things in addition to the regular partner benefits. And moving along, because I want to make sure we've got time to wrap this up. I know you're going to be posting about this morning on social media. So when you do, use these hashtags, and that way we'll all build the community again. I'll like it. I'll heart it. I'll do whatever it is, depending on what platform it is. Now, I want to thank so many people who have pulled this together today. You know who you are. Some of you were publicly visible. Some of you are working behind the scenes. I, in particular, want to make sure that we thank the staff of Houston's First, including our AV folks back there. Yeah. They make this be such a convenient place to be. It's very hospitable, very accessible for us. I'm so grateful. Now, it's only 7 weeks until our next breakfast. That's a pretty short turnaround, so I want to make sure you go ahead and get that on your calendar. Our speaker is going to be Dr. Jeff Fry, and oh wow, you maybe have even heard about him in Vitalization Wellness. There's your QR code if you want to go ahead and register for the breakfast, which you should do. You can also go to our website, and there is already, thanks to Sunny, a pop-up that says, Dr. Fry is coming, and register for the breakfast. Now, he's going to be talking about compassion fatigue. Today, we talked about mental health challenges, maybe emotional burdens among the people we serve. The next breakfast is kind of a complement to this one. It's going to be, what about us? And in the course of being drained and serving and over and over and over again, how do we deal with the very real fatigue that arises from doing good works all day long? So you can find out about that by coming to the breakfast. You can find out about that by going to our website. You can talk about that by Googling Jeff Fry and watching his TED Talks or looking at different resources that he has available at his website. Or you can just go talk to him because he's right back there. Wave your hand, Jeff. Okay, so there's Jeff. So Jeff is going to be our next time speaker. Go ahead and register for that one now because these next few weeks, no surprise, are going to be busy. All right, next thing. Whew, I am talking fast. Is there anything that anybody has just burning you got to say before we leave? You want the whole group to know? Christy.
The next faith-based fundraising fellowship meeting, sorry our flyer didn't make it to the bag, is next Thursday, September 18th, at 8:30 a.m. If you're interested, come see me. I'll be around for a little while. I'm happy to tell you more about it.
Christy is one of our partners, and so she has spearheaded this initiative to form an organization that stands alongside FBP. We don't fundraise. We deal with strategic and organizational barriers or opportunities that a nonprofit might face. Faith-based fundraising fellowship is specifically for people who do fundraise in their faith-based organizations. And so I highly endorse what goes on in this group. Expert training, good community. So come see Christy and she can help you get on that email list and make sure you're in on the regular rhythm of those meetings. These breakfasts are free. They are part of our gift to the Houston community. There are lots of ways you can respond. You can respond by telling other people, inviting people to come back next time, sign up to come back next time yourself. If it should happen that you would say, that was worth going to and I want to give them some money, you're welcome to give us some money. You're welcome to give us some money. And if you would like to do that, this QR code is going to be up here for you to use. Now, a couple of things. The gift bags are, of course, your gift. If you want extra cards that talk about that hope and healing line, there are some up here on this stage. There are also some at the back table. So make sure you pick those up, and there are lots more that Dr. Stanford can get you. This is all I happen to have, but feel free to take a bunch. Gabrielle and Nancy, the other Nancy Baker, are going to be back here at this back table to answer your questions about partnership and to remind you, as you turn in your name tag, to register for the next breakfast. But don't rush off, because we've got more to come. Annie Atwood from Sanctuary Foster Care and Hilda Marcel, one of our partners who is eminently qualified to facilitate this conversation with Annie, will be over here in this part of the room between 10 and 11 when we talk about trauma-informed care in the nonprofit setting. If you want to stay and talk with somebody else, your meet, greet, we've got this room till 11:30. So there's still food in the breakfast line. There's still coffee in the pots. You're welcome to talk, gab, exchange contact information. Stay as long as you can to take full benefit of being here this morning. I know that your presence here has filled my heart. It's really, really encouraged me. Each of you has been that Barnabas, that encourager to me this morning. And as I watch you interact with each other, I can see that it's true for the entire group. Thank you for being here. I'll see you November 5th. Bye-bye. Wait, one more thing. I forgot one more thing. This book is written by John Kasich. You may remember him. He used to be the governor of Ohio. Really interesting Christian man who writes a lot about the intersection of Christian faith and politics and community building. He has written this book called Heaven Help Us, which is how faith communities inspire hope, strengthen neighborhoods, and build a future. It's a good book. This one is a gift to the first person who signs up as a partner. So there you go. So talk to them and talk to John to sign up for the Learning Exchange Deep Dive.
how you brought me home, face to face. Oh, what a day it when I've sung a billion times the beauty of your sacrifice. Still I will sing with everything like the first time that I sang. The cross, you saved me from the mess that I was. You saved me for the sake of your love. I am here to praise you, bowing down to thank you. Everything I am for the cross. Oh, who could comprehend what it cost? A tidal wave of mercy and love. I am here to praise you, bowing down to thank you. Everything I am for the cross. You saved me from the mess that I was. You saved me for the sake of your love. I am here to praise you, bowing down to thank you. Everything I am for the cross. In this fount of living water, wellspring of my soul's delight, oh, to taste and see your goodness. Come and fill the caverns of